inner city commercial revitalization, really looking at our underdeveloped areas of the Valley region and seeing how we can help inject new life and vitality and economic wealth into these areas so that we can grow a prosperous and environmentally sustainable and equitable San Fernando Valley region. In addition to economic development in terms of education and workforce development, we're activating our local employers and our educational leaders to connect the dots so that our graduates are prepared, qualified, skilled, and ready for the jobs that are available now and in the future. So that's very exciting work that we're busy with. And then livable and sustainable communities, as I mentioned, which really does impact what we're talking about today in terms of housing. Next slide, please. So focusing in on economic development, what is economic development? Well, one definition of the International Economic Development Council is a great definition. Activities that promote economic well-being and quality of life for their communities by creating, retaining, and expanding jobs that facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. Great definition of economic development and why our economic alliance is so vital for our area. But beyond job creation, looking more broadly at economic development, it's the creation of wealth from which community benefits are realized. So when our people prosper economically, there are additional benefits socially for the whole community. It's more than just jobs. It's an investment in growing the economy, enhancing the prosperity and quality of life for all of our residents. So that's what we're all about. Next slide, please. So who is involved with the Alliance and the activities that we undertake? It is quite a variety of stakeholders. It's more, the question is who's not involved, because pretty much everyone that you might think of, everyone in this room representing the organizations and agencies and companies that we all represent are a part of this puzzle. You might think at first blush the top four, the community members, our elected officials, our government workers, and our business community are all a part of economic development, but it goes much broader than that. Our transportation systems, our utilities, our park and recreation, tourism promoters, and of course housing, as well as all the other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about what creates wealth. We're here to talk about housing and homelessness today, but when you look at the context of that and you step back, let's think a little bit about what creates wealth. And we can look at that from a global perspective and a domestic perspective. In terms of globally, when you think about what's possible, what elements must be available to create wealth, you think of three things: the right to control personal property. That's a right that not everyone enjoys. A market economy and entrepreneurship, that creativity and innovation, that's not necessarily available everywhere. And then infrastructure, what utilities are available, sewer system, plumbing system, all these necessary amenities and infrastructure that makes it possible to build an economy. Well, thankfully here in the San Fernando Valley region, we have all of these elements. So then, yet why do we still have some wealth disparities, and what are our challenges here? We have some great building blocks, but we also have what? We have some impediments, we have some unexploited opportunities, and we have the disproportionate availability or utilization of the resources that we have. We still have members of our society, as we heard earlier during a great presentations, that we have folks who are, their whole lives they're preoccupied with meeting their basic needs. And when elements or residents or participants in our community are focused on just meeting their basic needs, it inhibits the accessibility to their building wealth, the ideation that it takes to be creative, to come up with new ideas, the execution of just building a business, building a life, building a career, and advancement. Some of the impediments that the Alliance is very interested in and is working on is lack of information. So just not knowing what's available, what's possible. If you, in your environment, you haven't seen these opportunities, you wouldn't necessarily know. So there's a lack of information, there's a lack of capital. As we've also discussed and heard earlier, since there have been limitations to where people were unable to or allowed to obtain housing, or even the ability to obtain housing, there's been a real inability to pass down wealth from generation to generation. And with the impacts of taxation and inflation, we see that the poor are getting poorer in some circumstances. There's a serious lack of capital. It's just not there among friends and families to start new businesses and entrepreneurial ventures. There's also a lack of access to networks, to whether it's to obtain property like that first-time home, which is a great first stepping stone for so many of our residents, our neighbors, and also networks to help create wealth through business ownership or career advancement. So these are three impediments, along with the taxation and regulation, that we all face and many businesses really just have to contend with. And what that does is it creates a level of complexity and confusion which distracts business owner and the business development community from wealth building activities. So we really have to look at how we can streamline away some of the burdens that are impeding our economic advancement. In addition to those impediments, there are unexploited opportunities. So that's where the Alliance is very actively involved with helping companies to get access to corporate and government contracts in the procurement space. Also in terms of exporting, looking at opportunity zones and what opportunities lie there, gaining access to tax credits and grants to some of our growing businesses. We have not only distressed businesses, but we have growing businesses in the Valley, and we want to connect the dots for them to make sure they have every opportunity to connect and exploit those opportunities. And then, of course, there is the disproportionate availability and utilization of resources, which you can see the list there. I won't go into it. Let's go to the next slide. So some of the ways that we want to, or that any area can develop a competitive economy, is since employers are attracted to regions where they can find and retain a qualified workforce, it's so important that we create communities where workers can secure affordable housing, where they're close to good schools, where there's ease of mobility of people and products, where there's access to clean air and water, green spaces and amenities, and adequate public services, including technology infrastructure. And so in terms of the San Fernando Valley, we have so much going for us as a region. We have a large and diverse economy. We have great educational institutions that are turning out qualified candidates. We have a variety of parks and tourist destinations. Our proximity to additional amenities near the LA Basin and the various airports puts us in an incredibly strong position to take our burgeoning economy and grow it even further so that everyone can benefit. Next slide, please. And I think I'll go to the next slide from there. And so our work ahead, this is what the Alliance is working on, and we welcome you to work alongside with us. We want the Valley, we have a vision of excellence and quality and vitality for the Valley. And this vision looks like this: connected businesses. So businesses will know where to find what they need in order to either recover from the effects of the pandemic or continue to prosper and grow. We want to help them to connect with whatever they need in order to increase their revenues, decrease their expenses, access capital, and leverage our local real estate. We are looking at also a community where we have resourced residents. So a rich labor pool, educated and skilled workers, financially literate and able to command good paying jobs. Thirdly, thriving communities where housing is within reach at all income levels and where infrastructure is adequate to accommodate the population. And engaged visitors. So making sure that when international visitors or even just domestic or local residents are looking for fun places to go, that they think of the Valley and come to our spaces. Particularly relevant to today's conversation, next slide please, the Alliance is promoting the development of housing, of workforce housing, to help advance our economy. We're very proud to be partnering with the Southland Regional Association of Realtors, as well as others who have helped us to survey the attitudes of local residents and understand where are some of the impediments that may exist to supporting housing. And we have begun an outreach campaign and are super thrilled to be getting the word out to get our residents to understand not only that we need housing, but that they can help by pledging their support, or at least voicing their support for housing, so that when decisions are made, it's not only the voices of opposition, but it's the voices of support that are also heard. Next slide. This campaign involves a website presence on our website at thevalley.net/housing, an email campaign, and next slide, a social media advertising campaign to talk about the benefits of housing, why we need it, and how people can get involved. Next slide. And you can get involved in our campaign. If you go to thevalley.net/housing, you'll be able to click on the button that says, I support housing. It's free and it's that simple, and it gives us the ammunition that we need to take to our local elected officials to show that Valley residents care about this and support housing, and we're behind that effort 100%.